So we're going to start by just looking at the terms that are in the Uniform Commercial Code Article 2 involving sales in particular. First of all, just as I said a minute ago, Uniform Commercial Code Article 2 is what governs sales, and so that particular article has its own definitions, and we just need to make sure that we're clear on what they are. First of all, buyers and sellers. Well, that's not very surprising. A buyer is someone who is purchasing goods. A seller is someone who is providing those goods. And a buyer and a seller are deemed to be merchants if they do this as a customary part of their ongoing activities. So for example, it will also often be the case that the seller will be a merchant, but the buyer might be a consumer. And so the buyer would not be a merchant, but the seller would be. On the other hand, when you have business-to-business relationships, so for example, a large food company is buying grain from a large farming company, that's a business-to-business relationship. Both of them will then be deemed merchants. And as you will see, the Uniform Commercial Code has slightly different rules when the people doing the buying and selling are merchants than when they're individual consumers. Goods are just anything that you can move from one place to another. So goods are usually distinguished from services. And goods can be very big, they can be very small, but they're really anything that's movable. And a sale is that contractual transaction where one party provides something to the other, usually money, in return for the goods from the other party. And so the UCC governs these sales both between buyers and sellers who are merchants and buyers and sellers who are not merchants. And so now, having cleared up these terms, which are relatively self-explanatory anyway, we can then move to see how the Uniform Commercial Code Article 2 varies some of the contractual rules that we already learned in the context of sales.